Hey guys, how you doing? It's Marshall, and I'm doing another video on the TR-09 and the TB-03 from Roland that came out on 909. Well, they were announced on 909 day. I got mine on October 8th or 9th. I can't remember exactly. I think the 9th. So anyway, I want to first of all thank everyone who checked out those videos. They were a lot of fun to do, and honestly, they've done really well so far. I appreciate all the views and likes and comments and all that good stuff. So thank you very much. Basically, the reason why I'm doing this video is I had several requests to talk about how I have my workflow set up with the TR-09 and TB-03 with my Ableton setup. So I want to kind of go through that for everyone who was curious. But before we do that, I just want to let everyone know I am a electronic dance music producer. I do produce trance, house, electro, all that cool stuff. So my latest release, Imaginary Vectors, is available at your favorite digital download stores. Check it out at beatport.com or iTunes or wherever you buy your digital music from. Even streaming media on Spotify. So if you want to stream it, it's all in there. Anyway, I'd appreciate your support on that if you like. All right, so cool. So I'll switch to this one. So I wanted to show you here. So I have an Ableton Push 1. The Push 2, I probably actually don't have any need to get. At this point, this does everything I need. Plus, I have a second one that I use in my live rig. I use both of these together. Anyway, one of these days I may make a video on that whole thing. But what I'm doing is I have individual columns here of different MIDI clips that I set up. And again, this was a quick and dirty track. I mean, I literally did this in a couple of hours. And most of the time was spent learning how to program the TR-09 and the TB-03 because I never owned gear like that before. The closest thing to a hardware drum machine I'd ever actually worked with is Reason's Redrum, which is a virtual interpretation of something similar, I guess. But obviously loading in digital samples yourself. So, and that's a lot of fun, but again, I'd never owned one. So it did take me a little while to learn how to do this, reading the manual and then watching some online videos. There's a couple of great videos that show you how to program this and this. And also, Roland themselves have a couple of educational videos on their website. If you go and look up these products on their website, they have several YouTube videos that show you the basics, basically, and how to get in and program certain things. So it's very helpful. So that took most of my time. And then I just kind of started playing around. And so normally what I do in a track is I will start with some drum loops and I will kind of program in some melodies using a keyboard or whatnot, play along to the beat, find some stuff I like. Sometimes I can kind of noodle around for quite a while on a specific sound, looking for different sequences that I like, and then cut them down and quantize any notes I need to, that kind of thing. That's kind of my normal process for this. Yeah, so here in Ableton, you see I have this EXT enabled here. This is the external clock control. And what this does is it tells, you see my tap tempo is disabled and my beat here is set to 130 beats per minute. Now this is because the Ableton is getting its clock source from the TR-09, and you can see here, well, you can kind of see it, 130 beats per minute. You can change this and Ableton would change accordingly. The way to do this is in your options in Ableton, go to your preferences, go into your link MIDI section here. Now in here, this is going to list all of your MIDI capable equipment. Now, I have a lot of hardware connected, so yeah. But basically all you need to do is go to your input for your TR-09 and enable the sync option. Turn that on. It's off by default. You can see when I turn that off, it disables the external clock sync. If we come back over and turn that on, boom, it's there. Now by default, this is not turned on. So when you come in here and you turn this on, you close out of it, this will look like this. And then just click on the EXT button. You will see that Ableton then grays out your tap tempo and the actual tempo itself. So then what that means is that if we go back over to TR-09, if I start playing this, it will start my patterns, my clips, I should say, in Ableton. Any of them that I have set to trigger already. So if we look at my push, you can see I have several of these flashing. Now the flashing means that I have them engaged, but they're not playing yet because the TR-09 has not started Ableton. So they're just waiting. And basically I've got this row here is additional drum MIDI sequences that I programmed in Ableton clips. Basically the default output, if you want to program your TR-09 from your DAW, basically MIDI output 10, at least on my machine, was the default for that. So basically I have output 10 and an external instrument here. You see here TR-09. I'll go back to this because I'm not showing you. TR-09. This is my TR-09 channel. And external instrument TR-09 channel 10. And then my audio is coming from my 003 rack. And then I have a little bit of compression in here. The TB-03, I have a little bit of processing on here just to kind of level out the sound. Now, initially, I did not do this. What I had done is I had the TR-09 and the TB-03 coming into my Behringer XR 12 or whatever it is mixer, which is actually what I use to record my videos. So I can get my microphone in there and then run an audio source externally or several or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so that's how I had done this originally, and I have since brought these devices directly into Ableton, like I showed you here, for audio. Now, these tracks were here. The TB-03 track wasn't here, but the TR-09 track was here because if we go into one of these, you can see I have in the clip some MIDI data. And what this does is I have a crash and like a snare fill type thing, okay? Now, this is 8 bars. And the reason why you do this, at least in my opinion, the reason why I did this specifically was because in the TR-09, I have several 16-step patterns. I have, I think I said 5 of those. So it's only 16 steps, which is 1 bar per pattern. Well, normally in house, techno, trance, any of those electronic genres, you're going to have a change every 8 to 16 bars, usually somewhere around there. So you definitely want to have at least something like a crash coming in, every 8 bars or 16 bars or whatever. And I just, I have a snare fill here as well. Now, the other one is the same thing with a crash. But this is actually an additional crash over here and then snare crescendo. This would be kind of a snare build, basically, that, maybe at the end of that, I drop something bigger. I make a more dramatic change to the bass line. I drop everything out except for a couple of elements. Those types of things are what I kind of use this for. And the reason, again, is because TR-09, you can string patches together in track mode, which is fine. You can totally do it that way. But because I have an external source that or I should say an external device I can trigger from, and it just makes more sense, and it was quicker for me to do it this way as opposed to stringing a bunch of these patterns together and using the track mode. So to me, this worked out really well. I can just literally trigger these whenever I want, and my additional percussion clips that I added through Ableton are still in time with everything else, and it works great. So again, the TB-03, there's nothing here because on this layer, on this row or column, I'm not using any MIDI because everything's internal in the TB-03. And I don't even need clocking for it because we're using the trigger out on the TR-09. So the next row over is my bass line. Here I have a bass, just a standard bass pattern with no variation in pitch. This second one is another, it's the same pattern, but there are pitch variations in there. And then the third one is pitch variations are the same as the second clip in Ableton, but it has a different MIDI pattern. Okay, so moving up here, this is kind of a background sound, it just kind of goes up and down a scale with some side chaining on it. Then over here you have the dirty kind of trance sound that you'll hear kind of in the beginning. This right here is like a sweep transition sound that you will hear at once every 8 bars. And then over here is kind of like, I guess, the theme melody for the song, which is a bell type sound from Silent 1. So again, a couple of different synthesizers I'm using in here. Besides the TR-09 and TB-03 are the only hardware I'm using. Everything else is virtual software, VSTs. My bassline is massive. Now you can see I tend to do this where I split these out left and right. I'm not sure why that was turned off. Yeah, that just gives a little bit of stereo width to the track. You don't want to do that too much, because when you listen to anything on like a mono speaker setup, either on a cell phone or sometimes even clubs have mono in the clubs. So if you pan everything way the hell out in the stereo spectrum, you're going to lose all that information when you run it through just a single mono setup. So I tend to do a little bit of this. Now, normally I don't do this on the bass, but because of the type of bass I'm using, which is kind of a unison type bass, it's already had a slight amount of stereo width. I just kind of gave it just a tiny bit more. And then this is actually not massive. This is Omnisphere. I believe I started to make a patch in massive and then switched over to Omnisphere for this. This is actually Omnisphere here. And again, I tend to do a left and right. But with this one, this was a preset in Omnisphere, and it sounded great for that dirty kind of trancey sound. But when I went in here to pan these left and right, there's something weird with the phase on this patch, and it could be that there's a delay or something turned on to one side, and I didn't dig into the patch to disable it or anything like that. So I just kind of, move the knobs around to where it sounded the best, and that's what I came out with. It does actually, if you look at this while it plays, we've got left and right going at the same levels. Then my sweep is a Mini Moog V2 from Arturia. It's literally just the white noise from the V2 Mini Moog. The oscillators are turned all the way down. You probably can't see this on here, but the oscillator level is 0 and 0 and 0. Okay, and all we have is noise volume turned up pretty much all the way, and I believe I'm filtering this with some CC control. And then a bunch of audio processing on the group pattern, some EQing, delay, phaser, reverb, and LFO tool. Now, I highly recommend that anyone who makes this kind of music buy LFO tool. It is the shit. It helps make sidechain compression so much easier. I swear to God. Because the way I used to do sidechaining was I would create a separate track with just kick drums going once every on the beat, every 4/4/4 beat. And what I would do is I would then link that up into a compressor and sidechain it. So that way it would duck the sound based on the input signal coming from the kick drum. Now you wouldn't hear the kick drum obviously because you'd mute that. But that's how you had to do it back in the day before these guys came out with these tools that are awesome. So, and it just helps my workflow a lot, because doing it the old way, I'd have to temporarily disable it when I was rendering my stems in Ableton, and then link it back up when I was done, and it just sucked. So at least now I don't have to do that. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's not a lot to this. One of these days I should probably go through some of my other tracks. They get pretty crazy here, and I do all my production in Ableton. I used to use, I actually started producing with Reason in 2004. So that's how long I've been making music. Started with Reason, moved to Pro Tools in like 2006, something like that. And then because of my desire to go out and do live stuff, I'm with Ableton now. It works fantastic. It sounds great. Yeah. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'd be happy to answer anything you have. But that's kind of my setup for these new products from Roland. And again, purists are going to scoff at these because, maybe they got a bunch of money to spend, but not all of us do. And the TR-09, I didn't even comment on that. It sounds really good. The kick drum is fucking awesome. It's got a lot of low end, and I was surprised at how good it sounds. The TB-03, again, sounds great to my ears. I mean, I don't have a TB-303, but they're $3,000 right now. I kind of looked. I keep an eye on some of that stuff. Maybe one day, I'll get one. But I think I'd rather get me a reissue Mini Moog Model D for almost the same price. And it's not like a 30-year-old beat to shit TB-303 that has limited control, yada, yada, yada. These are good. And they're not a huge amount of money. I think $350 for this, $400 for this. Not bad price points. So, yeah, if you guys are on the fence about this, I say get them. You won't regret it. And there's something about having the tangible product in front of you. This is why I have so many hardware synths, too, because VSTs are great. You have a lot of additional control in the VST world, and that is awesome, okay? But there's still nothing like having the physical equipment in front of you to do your knob tweaking, to do sound design, and just getting to know the machine. Like, you can really almost have a connection with the machine. It's harder to experience that, in my opinion, with a VST. But anyway, I'll stop rambling on. I'll go through another little live session on this now. Again, this is going to be a freestyle thing, so just bear with me if I screw up. I guess we could just blame Roland for everything if you want. I'm okay with that. So anyway, thanks again, guys. Please leave some comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe. All that cool YouTube stuff. All right, here we go. All right, so you can see that I kind of fucked up a little bit because I think I hit 2 of these at the same time. And what happens is when you do that, it will play one and then the other one. And I believe I press these 2. And what happens is this one has the trigger out going to the TB-03. This one does not. So it would play the first bar on this and the second bar had nothing. So anyway, that's me screwing up live. So I hope you guys enjoy that. That was a lot of fun though. Yeah, so again, thanks guys for checking out my videos. Please subscribe. I plan on doing a lot more with this with these products and making some new music. So thanks again.